Today we're talking about filming fireworks, so be sure to stick around for some helpful tips that'll help you film fireworks like a pro, and for why I preferred to use my Sony FX3. First off, you can't approach filming fireworks like you do any other type of video. Right out of the gate, you don't want to overexpose your highlights. That means the brightest parts of your fireworks. It's like exposing for the sun, and if you start exposing for the sun, it's going to be completely blown out no matter what you do, and you'll lose all that dynamic range between all those nice pretty colors from the light trails and all the other bright firework goodness. Some think that it would be easier to control the exposure by bringing your aperture all the way up to like f16 or f22 to have everything in focus so you wouldn't have to worry about those blown out highlights, right? Wrong. It's really the contrary. You want to go as low as you can. As for me, I shot all of this on my 24-70 2.8 G Master lens with the ISO set at about 12,800. And because I followed the 180 shutter rule, I was shooting at 1/250th of a second to compensate for my 120 frames per second that I was shooting in. Just remember, you'll want to shoot at all those lower f-stops like f1.4, 1.8, or 2.8, what have you. But if you don't own any lenses with that low of an aperture, you're going to want to have to pay attention to your ISO levels. I wouldn't bring it any higher than about 3200, give or take. You're going to have to watch out for that noise when increasing the ISO. That noise is going to kill you when you get into those higher ISOs. Just keep that in mind. But when it comes to autofocus, you're going to want to shoot manual. Do not use autofocus, whatever you do. Having and using a tripod the whole time is going to be your best friend, since you're not really moving much anyways. Also, make sure you turn on your peaking display so you'll know what's in focus. But once the fireworks start to go off, it's going to get really bright and full of color very quickly, but then it gets really dark just as fast. And your camera will be desperately trying to focus on anything it can, losing whatever focus you started with. Just make sure that in the early part of the show, you use that time to dial in your focus. Then just sit back, hit the record, and relax. My professor always said, get it right in camera first. So I found that the white balance ranging from 2600 to 2800 Kelvin was to be the best temperature sweet spot. It's also a bit of a personal preference to me. Maybe you like your fireworks a bit warmer. I just feel that the cooler look works best for me. If there's any tips or tricks that you may know of and use that I haven't mentioned, please leave them in the comment section below so we can all help each other to film the most epic of fireworks. That's why we're all here, right? To help each other. Let's help each other. Adding a little extra spice to my footage, I put on that Moment Cine Bloom filter with the 10%. It gave a nice roll off to all the highlights. It made the colors look that much more cinematic. And I think I'm going to be using the Cine Bloom filter a lot more often. Not just with fireworks, but anything with low lighting colors and highlights. Now, a tripod is key to keeping these shots super stable while you're trying to frame. And I use the Peak Design travel tripod because this tripod goes with me everywhere I take my camera. It is the most sleek and sturdy travel tripod I've ever owned. I never thought I would get it when it came out, but I did, and it makes a hell of a difference. Let me tell you that. I'd show you, but I'm kind of using it right now to film. Having your camera filming on a tripod also frees you up to photograph the fireworks with another camera if you have one, or your cell phone if that's what you want to choose to do, you know, with reels and shorts and TikTok and all that other fun stuff, stories. But filming on a tripod, it gives you the options to do both. Even just sitting back watching the fireworks yourself. But that could be said about any tripod though. Just make sure you get one that's sturdy enough for your expensive camera. Don't put a $4,000 camera on a $20 tripod. That's a bad idea. PPAB in the comments like. As well as setting up the frame of your scene, for me, I wasn't at the best location to be filming fireworks. Same as last year. I didn't really have an epic location like of a beach or a downtown cityscape skyline or mountain ranges. So if you have access to these locations and they're available to you, consider yourself lucky and use them. You can easily set up your camera, frame it up the way you want using the rule of thirds, having a nice beach with the fireworks reflecting in the water, having trees or bushes in the foreground, or even people having a great time celebrating in the foreground. I didn't have any of that. By now you might be asking, what camera and lens should I even use? Well, I suggest any camera that's great in low light and a lens with the lowest aperture possible. Sony cameras come to mind. I mean, these tips can help you no matter which camera you use. Just make sure those key factors are in line. Why did I choose the Sony FX3? Is it because I already own this camera and I love it? Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm kinda a little bit biased. I went with the Sony FX3 because of its dual native ISOs and being able to bring it all the way up from 800 to 12,800 with no noise. It's like seeing the Holy Grail for the first time, but not having your face melt. It's a good feeling. It's also that 12.1 megapixel sensor that makes this camera a low light beast. Also, being able to film in 10-bit color works perfectly with all the vibrant colors that come out of the fireworks. I was filming in mostly 4K at 120 frames per second, with some shots being at 60, resulting in some amazing slow motion footage. I ended up pairing this camera with the 24-70 2.8 G Master lens. Now, I would have preferred to have that new 70-200 lens, given where I was. I have what I have right now, right? Even last year, I had to resort to shooting up and close, directly up at a high angle, and just getting the fireworks in the sky because I didn't have much of a choice not wanting to film everybody's houses with kids running around, having parked cars with license plates. I didn't want any of that distracting from the fireworks that I was shooting. Turns out this year, the opposite happened, and I ended up being really far away from the fireworks where that new 70-200 lens would have come in handy. The past 2 years, I haven't been too fortunate enough to find the perfect balance of epic fireworks and epic location. Where I live anyway, but I'm still trying. Sometimes you just have to make do with the situation that you have. But maybe next year, I'll find the perfect spot. Maybe.